their global viewership is far surpassing that of the Super Bowl, and they do that many times during the season. So it's a truly massive sport and has a big following. So the people that follow it cover a wide spectrum of other interests beyond just racing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine that, but I mean, I'm just, I don't really see a lot of, usually if you're, tinkering around with cars, you're not necessarily, I just can't imagine there being a ton of crossover.
I don't see it being all that likely that people are going to be coming in droves on a bike to the race, right. But really more for the reason that that Paul was saying, which is, there's a lot of traffic heading out to a track like that, and I don't know if I want to be hopping on my bike when I've got all those other cars milling around. Depending on how they do it, it might be feasible, but the track itself though is pretty interesting. It's got a lot of cool features to it, and elevation changes and some really interesting turns. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. But yeah, Bernie Ecclestone, not a big fan of his.
Now I have a question. Is your video flipped like mine is? My cam, it seems to be flipped inside of
Really?
Yeah. Because
no, mine's, as far as I can tell, it's
because this is my right hand.
Your video is frozen for me right now. I don't know.
Oh, is it frozen? Okay.
What hand? What hand am I holding up? My right hand or my left?
Yeah, it's your right hand.
Yeah, then I'm okay. My video's okay. Hey, would you guys mind if I recorded some of this to do a little podcast? I wanted to do a sample of what it's like on Google Plus, these things. Is that okay?
Feel free.
Sure. Right, I'm gonna leave and come back. Try to get. I've been playing around with the video to see if it fixed. I'll be right back.
All right.
All right.
We'll catch you in a minute, Mark. So I'm talking on Google Plus on Hangouts and ran into what's your name again?
Christian Conover.
Christian Conover, who does a podcast. So we've been talking about Formula One, which is a hot topic around Austin. So I was kind of getting his observations on what it's going to be like to have a Formula One entity here in Austin. What's that going to be like for us, do you think?
Well, as Austinites, you are going to see a pretty huge infusal of fans, and especially with the first race, which is projected for 2012, that's going to be a big event. It's going to be the return of Formula One to the United States, and you've got a huge following of Formula One in the United States that doesn't get a lot of coverage here because it's not as popular of a sport in the eyes of the sports coverage networks. But there is a really big following there, so it's going to be a lot of people showing up in Austin for the race. It's going to mean probably a lot of money coming into the city. That's certainly going to be a plus, but it's going to be a different crowd than you probably see in some of the other big nationally known events that take place in Austin. Most notably South by Southwest. With the music folks and the tech folks, that's a very different crowd than you're going to see from the ones that show up for the Formula One race. These are going to be folks from all walks of life, but all having that gearhead mentality in one form or another, coming for the sport. And so it's going to be a lot of people. F1 races can often bring out a few 100,000 people. So it's going to be a lot. But I think it's going to be really exciting to see what kind of things show up to support the Formula One ecosystem in Austin.
Yeah, well, they're talking about how many days? Is it a one-day deal or a one-week deal, or how does that work? How do they do that?
It's going to probably span over the course of the better part of a week, because the race itself will take place on Sunday of the week that the race week. The actual race will take place at the end of the week on Sunday. It'll kick off probably Sunday afternoon, and the race will probably run for about 2 hours or so. I don't remember exactly how long the track is and how long the race is going to be, but it can fall anywhere between about 50 to 70 laps. But it probably ends up being about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Leading up to that, you've got practice sessions for the cars to get out there and get comfortable with the track, make sure that the cars are properly configured, the drivers are comfortable with the course, that they don't find any things that aren't quite right from the last time they ran the cars at the previous track, which often is usually only a week or two prior to that race. They've got to reconfigure things and make adjustments. And so for probably the whole week leading up to that race, or the better part of that week, you're going to be seeing cars out there practicing, getting comfortable with the track, and then they'll be doing qualifying sessions where they they figure out the order of the starting grid of the vehicles, and they all get placed on the grid. So that usually takes place on Saturday, and then the next day on Sunday is the actual race.
Hey, Mark, welcome back. We didn't mean to preempt your session there. I think you started this and they were kind of talking Formula One, but it's kind of...
No, that's okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you. Can't see you.
We can't see you right now. So...
Yeah, the video doesn't seem to be working. Sorry, I was using this as a test.
But
I
do see your thumbnail down at the bottom, but when I click on your thumbnail, it's just gray in the main part of the thing. You're frozen in a thumbnail, which is unusual because normally that would be gray. You know, I don't know how you made. That's probably because you had some video and it saved the remnant of what you had there earlier.
Well, for some reason the video's flipping it. It's mirroring it. I'm getting the.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work that out. So.
Yeah, that's odd. You're the first person I've talked to that's had issues with that. That's interesting.
I'm having to run this through a kind of a virtual video connector, so that might be what's happening.
That's probably what it is. It's probably that vidcaster software. You need to tinker around with the settings on that probably to get it to work. So on Formula One, so it's about a week, huh? About a week event. So what did people do on the days when there aren't races? What happens on those days?
Well, really, I mean, the days leading up to the race are mostly press days, and they're driven by the teams. That is an opportunity for. Looks like Mark is back with video, by the way.
Good.
Yeah, I turned the vid blaster off. This is my right hand.
Yep, that looks like your right hand.
It is.
So.
It is, in fact, your right hand.
Okay.
Well, excellent.
It's flipping on me, so on this end too. It's very odd.
Yeah. So for the days leading up to the race, that's primarily going to be the teams themselves out there getting the cars ready for the actual race and doing their practice laps and just fine tuning everything. That's not really a general public type thing. I mean, I think that a lot of those times people can come to the track and see things. They may not be able to gain access to the infield and everything, but they might be able to see from outside along the fence there what's happening. That's also when some of the press show up and they're talking to the teams and the drivers and reporting on things, because of course anything that happens leading up to the race, if there's a crash or somebody gets injured or gets sick or anything that takes place, that could affect the actual race itself. Who's actually going to be racing, who's starting, all this kind of stuff. It all contributes to that. So for Formula One fans, they want to know all of that. They want to have all that coverage leading up to it. So there are going to be heavy press coverage of those practice sessions. And then, of course, with the qualifying, that's a big one, because then it decides where people are going to be in the starting grid for the actual race. That's when you're going to see a lot more of the general public showing up to the actual track and watching it, because the qualifying is a really exciting thing, because basically what happens is each of the cars gets out on the track, runs a lap, and often they're all running together, or a group of them are running together. But they do a certain set number of laps, and they are placed on the starting grid based on lap times. So the person who puts down the fastest lap time of anybody, they get the pole position. They're number one. And then it just goes in descending order from there, or ascending, really. And then that's where the general public is going to start to have a lot more involvement in the race. And then, of course, the actual race itself, when on Sunday, that's when everything happens, and there's the TV coverage, and all the spectators flood into the track and the infield, all this kind of stuff, and into the grandstands, and the actual race takes place. And that's also, again, you got to remember that a Formula One race is televised worldwide. So race is taking place in Austin is going to be seen all over the world. And if things happen during a race that indicate it's a technically complicated track, or technically, if it's a very intricate track and has certain things that make it a much more difficult thing to drive, it's going to make it a more notable track for F1 fans, because you often see a lot more exciting racing. There's places where people can be passing in interesting areas, and a lot more activity on the track. That there's going to be added value to Austin as the Austin GP in the season.
Cool. So who is the LeBron James or the Lance Armstrong or Tiger? Well, I guess not Tiger Woods. I guess it's some guy named Ian now. But who is the major player? Is there like a major dominant driver in the sport?
Well, a lot of it often it's the drivers, and then by extension the teams, because the teams only have one or two cars on the field. Usually it's a two-car team. There are only a few that run one car. But some of the big players are Ferrari. They're a dynasty in Formula One. Mercedes McLaren is a very strong team. Lotus used to be. They've kind of fallen off. But the big team right now is actually Red Bull Racing. So they're a non-manufacturer team, the Red Bull energy drinks. But they, for the past couple of years, have been just about the strongest team on the field. And their star driver right now is a German kid named Sebastian Vettel, and he's just tearing it up. I think of the 8 or 9 races that have taken place so far this season, he's won almost all of them. I think he was 6 for 6 at the beginning of the season, and he's just really kicking butt. So I guess if you had to pick one at this point, it'd probably be Sebastian Vettel as the LeBron James of Formula One.
Well, in deference to Mark up there in Dallas, we'll have to say he's the Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, we haven't really come down off of that yet here in Dallas. I mean, I think today, or with them actually deciding to lock out the players today, was probably yesterday was probably the last day we could kind of hang our head high or whatever. But yeah, it was kind of amazing up here to see what the city was doing. They're freaking out.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's just amazing that they won that, and nobody had them written in for that at all. They were not in the running, so to speak. So they just did it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a Cinderella story. But did you see any of the footage of Dirk in Germany when he went back to his hometown?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just huge crowds that came out to see him. So it was kind of amazing. So
you work with Callie Lewis and with Pelpina Trip and that whole what's the name of their company now? What's it called?
It's called Livid Lobster.
Livid Lobster, that's right. So so that's going pretty well for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I do a show over there called the Tech Charge Show, and I also produce a show called Real Geniuses, which is a movie review interview show, that sort of thing.
Movie reviews.
Mm-hmm.
What's good at the movies?
Well, we've got a couple of local reviewers that'll either, they'll definitely go at it, with each other and argue and that sort of thing. It's kind of a fun show. So we're basically just trying to get, our feet under us, figure out exactly how the set's going to work, and, every day we come up with kind of a new idea to make something better. So it's kind of fun. I basically do do the shows over there in the evening, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not full time over there or anything, and I've got a day job, so I'm not working with them constantly. But it's a lot of fun. I worked with Callie and John P. on Open Camp up here last year. Had a big conference here in town. So
yeah, I heard about that. I almost came up for that. It's just always a trek to go to Dallas. If it wasn't for the distance, I would have been there. I definitely would have been there if it had been in Austin. Why don't you have one down here in Austin?
Well, the idea is that you guys have South by South. I mean, I lived in Austin for 10 years. I was down there for a long time. I was going to South by Southwest when they were begging you to come and giving you free tickets, to go to Interactive and everything. It was, and now it's got a life of its own down there. I love heading down there now, but I kind of wish it was as crazy as it was, now, a few years ago when I was living down there.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I heard that was a great event.
Yeah, well, we were kind of trying to, basically one of the things we're trying to do here in Dallas is kind of get the geek community, pointed in the same direction and get a little bit more organization, because, 2 or 3 years ago there really wasn't, a lot of folks that actually would get together and meet. And ever since social media has kind of exploded, it's been a little bit of a different story. People start seeing each other at meetups and stuff like that. So it's kind of a different attitude here, I think.
How far is Dallas from Austin? I actually don't know.
I believe it's 200 miles from post office to post office.
That's about right. About 200 miles, yeah.
But
all right.
Yeah, it takes 3.5 hours if you're driving pretty quick. You can get there in about 3.5 hours.
Right. Yeah, that's basically about what it takes to get from where I am to from DC to New York. It's basically
probably about the same thing. Well, I'm gonna run. I just wanted to get this thing tested up. I've got to go head out on the town now.
Good idea,
man.
It was good talking to both of you.
Yeah, good talking to you too.
Absolutely, and add me to your. How do you add everyone to your circle?
Well, actually, if you hover over somebody on the feed, their name pops up in there. If you click on the name, it'll open them back in the parent browser window.
All right, I just added you, Christian. I think I already had Paul added.
Yeah, I had Paul. I just added you a minute ago.
Okay, cool.
So we're good to go. I look forward to our next hookup, and you're doing some exciting things up there. Glad to hook up with you tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of Skype interviews and stuff like that, or maybe Google Plus interviews now. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm kind of starting investigating that for my stuff.
Well, the cool thing about this is that it's switching the video out
exactly
on the voice. It's just such a great idea. I haven't seen any other system do that.
Yeah, this is far and away the best implementation I've seen yet of multi-user chat.
Yeah, they really thought about it. All right, see you guys later.
Talk to you later, Mark.
Thanks a lot. I'm gonna wrap it up here tonight too. So Christian, I'm gonna leave you all alone here. I'm afraid.
Oh, that's all right. I'm probably
but probably somebody will come along.
I'm sure. I'm just hanging. So
interesting to hear your thoughts on Formula One. I guess they're going to have they're going to try to have electric car races and bicycle races and
that's the thing.
Do other things with it, out there.
And the track, I mean, yeah, it's being funded by Formula One for the construction and the initial capital and everything to get it going comes out of Formula One because they have the budget. But tracks like that they don't just sit there 364 days out of the year until the F1 guys show up. They get used for other things. So you'll probably see a lot of other Formula 3 races and maybe some Formula 1000 races and other stuff, and probably start to see some track days from local car clubs and things like that. It's going to probably get a lot of community use as well.
We would hope so, with all that expenditure and all the hullabaloo about it and and all everything.
I mean, it's got a lot of potential for economic infusion, for bringing in money from outsiders who are coming to visit for the different races. There's, as I said, I mean, it's a big attraction. So I think you're going to see a lot of activity around that track throughout the year.
Well, I hope to talk to you again soon, and I guess sometime in 2012 when they have the race, maybe we'll see you down here in Austin. But I'm sure we'll hook up with you a lot of times before then. Anyway, have a good night, and I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Talk to you later, Paul.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.